I'm having difficulty hearing. Is it okay if I say so?
Why don't you just text me?
Yeah, that's fine.
Like the same phone?
Okay, so we're going to call to order the August meeting of Clackamas River Water with us. We're going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get somebody to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. To approve
You got it?
tonight's agenda.
Sorry.
Thank you. How's that? I must know what he's thinking. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Get that, Karen? Good.
There was a second over here.
Yeah, there's a second.
I got
There's a
it.
motion,
Yes.
there's a second, and the vote.
Yes, thank you.
Pierre, can you mute your phone?
Yeah, this is really not so good.
Yes.
Yeah. Pierre, can you mute your phone?
Say again, please.
Can you mute your phone? We're getting lots of noise.
Don't move around.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah, okay. So there is nobody signed up for public comment, but I do want to recognize our board member from Sunrise Water, Ernie Platt. We don't agree, do you? So do we want to do a PAR? Roll call?
Commissioner Blanes?
Commissioner, I'll just start and do
Go ahead.
alphabetical. Commissioner Andrew. Here. Commissioner Blanes.
Here.
Commissioner Kalani.
Here.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yep.
Commissioner Soa.
Here.
All present.
Good. Okay, action item number one, consider approval of the collective bargaining agreement between CRW and Oregon AFSCME Council 75. I believe we have a report from Mr.
Motion first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move that the Clackamas River Water Board of Commissioners ratify the collective bargaining agreement between CRW and Oregon AFSCME Council 75, Local 359, and authorize the general manager to sign the agreement on behalf of CRW.
Second.
Good evening, Commissioners. This evening we have what is a culmination of work between the district and the union in developing a collective bargaining agreement. Our previous collective bargaining agreement expired June 30th of 2017, and so we're asking you this evening to consider ratifying and authorizing the general manager to sign a new 3-year agreement that will be effective through June 30th, 2020. I'll just note on the phone we do have Pierre Rivera with the Local Government Personnel Institute, who served as counsel for management through this process, was involved with the negotiations and the negotiation team. As the general manager, I would like to just thank everybody who was involved on both sides. I think this was a process that hopefully resulted in a very good contract that is, or good agreement that is, we went through a lot of articles. And so of the 24 existing articles, we opened 18 of them and reached agreement on all 18 of them. So it was a fair amount of work. This evening, we're here to recommend that the board ratify that agreement and authorize me to sign it on their behalf. But we're happy to answer any questions or give you any additional details.
Questions? Anybody? No. Call the vote.
Commissioner Andrew.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani.
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yep.
Commissioner Soa.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Pierre.
Okay, if I could get a motion to accept the 82nd Avenue Waterline project.
I move to approve the notice of acceptance for the Southeast 82nd Avenue Waterline Abandonment Project, establishing the project completion date as August 10, 2017, and authorize the general manager's signature on said notice of acceptance.
Second.
So Joe will provide the staff report tonight.
Good to see you tonight, Joe.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to provide my final report on the Second Avenue project. To provide a brief recap on construction, we went to bid on this project back in January, received bids in February, and selected a contractor. The contract went according to plan, mostly, as I provided in my summary and the agenda report. We did had to isolate, find, and cap a errant connection to the old water system. But as the work progressed, we were able to do that without much delay and provided a complete shutdown of the old pipeline. The abandonment, we abandoned 4,400 feet of 4, 6, and 8-inch steel pipeline, 3,000 feet of 2-inch galvanized pipeline. So we have that out of the system and no longer leaking or needing repairs. During the course of the project, we did 9 wet taps and installed 420 feet of new ductile iron pipeline and provided valves on the side streets so that we would not have to have the crews out in the highway if there were any shutdowns required on the side streets. Another change order that occurred in the project when the contractor potholed a crossing of a ODOT pipeline, a 42-inch aluminum pipeline. They found a large hole, not their cause, but it was in the area of their excavation. We notified ODOT and quickly turned around a solution, developed a purchase order from ODOT, and our contractor performed that work in removing and replacing that culvert along with our project, and we've already been reimbursed for that work. So in the summary of costs, the total shows a 5.3% increase in the original bid, but that is reduced to a 2.9% increase because of the reimbursement of the change order. The increases, again, were mostly pavement related, and that had to do with adding some pavement repair to repair holes that we had dug last winter in repairing leaks in the highway when the ice storm was there. We had 2 large leaks. They dug big holes. They had temporarily patched that, and we added that to the quantity of pavement repair under this contract while he had his traffic control out and whatnot. So we were happy with the contractor's performance and the results of the project. And if you have any questions, I'll answer anything else.
So do we replace the hydrants when we do these major upgrades too, or how does that work?
In this project, we did not install new hydrants. This was I don't know if it's called a maintenance project or we call it an abandonment, but really what we're trying to do is do work to remove old pipeline from the system in advance of that ODOT pavement project. And that's one thing I didn't mention. The ODOT bid their project and received 1 bid from their advertisement, and it was significantly higher than their
Engineered estimate.
price. So they did not award a contract. If you've been up that road, you'll see that they aren't working out there. So that will be rebid next year. And it's unfortunate. We pushed our project timeline very quickly in order to get ahead we scheduled our construction so that we would be out of the way before their contractor was in there. And we succeeded. That was kind of a point that did not work.
We're out of the way. That's the word.
We are out of the way.
So why don't we replace on these CIP projects hydrants? Is that,
Typically, we do. On
Yeah, I thought we
CIP
normally did
projects,
that.
but as
I mean, I drove through them, I didn't see anything
we
new,
only
and I was just-
installed less than 500 linear feet of pipe. There were already hydrants on the side streets. There's a number of improvements that ODOT needs to make in order to make room for hydrants if we were to add them within the system. Now, we did analyze the coverage within that area, and it was adequately covered. It's not impressively covered, but it is adequately covered. So we didn't feel that it was necessary to go to extreme needs in order to try to achieve more fire hydrant coverage. The right-of-way on the side streets, which are county roads, is inadequate at the corners where we would prefer to have fire hydrants. So there's a limited room we could actually add hydrants. And then the highway right-of-way is also very tight, right at the back of sidewalk. So we didn't think it necessary to acquire right-of-way to add hydrants at this time. If ODOT performs additional improvements at the corners, we may identify opportunities for that, or new development.
anybody more questions? Mary, Bill, you good? Shall we vote?
Commissioner Ansher?
Yes.
Commissioner Blannen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yep.
Commissioner Soa?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Joe.
Number 3, getting a motion to consider the approval of the Carver Bridge Settlement Agreement.
I move to approve the Carver Bridge Settlement Agreement and authorize the Clackamas River Water Board President to sign the final agreement on behalf of Clackamas River Water.
Second.
So what you have before you this evening, you've been provided with a copy of a settlement agreement between Clackamas County, Wildish, Standard Paving, Inc., and Clackamas River Water. This is an agreement that will allow us to move forward in a variety of different ways. The agreement will help dismiss the action, legal actions between the 3 entities that have taken place. It allows CRW to also take control of the project and to move forward, and we've already made plans to incorporate this as part of our Springwater road project that we hope to complete by May of 2018 if this is approved. The county has already approved the agreement. Wildish has already approved the agreement, and so now we're bringing it to you for your consideration. Be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional details if you'd like.
Anybody? So I have, this is a tough vote. The ratepayers need to know that nobody in this room is responsible for these cost overruns. Clackamas County is solely responsible for those cost overruns and the mismanagement of this project. And so we're faced as a board with the next best option in order to get our backbone project completed on time and to keep our ratepayers covered, and we've taken care of the financial responsibility we have for our bonded debt. And so we're not happy, but we're trying to do as good as we can. So, and if Karen would read the vote, we'll get her taken care of.
Commissioner Ansher?
Yes.
Just to add to
Okay.
that,
Oh,
Go ahead,
Okay.
sorry.
we found out we can't trust the county to do what they say they will do.
And that's too bad,
That's too bad.
because we should have them as a partner that we can trust. Anybody else? You good?
Commissioner Ansher? Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we on the vote now?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There seems to be still some side discussion.
Yeah.
Commissioner Andrews says yes. Move on
Okay.
to the next
Commissioner
one.
Blanes?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Commissioner Soa?
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
Number 4, could I get a motion to consider the approval of the Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission planning document?
Move the Clackamas River Water Board of Commissioners provide final approval of the Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission planning document as recommended by the CRWSC Board.
Second.
So, so we've had an opportunity to have a couple work sessions as it relates to the planning document. As part of our agreement between Clackamas River Water and Sunrise Water Authority, one of the things that's included in that agreement is the development of a planning document that starts to kind of spell out the present and future water demands of both entities and lays out how those water demands can be met in the future. It's a helpful document because it also provides some basis for kind of determining demands in the future, and then also generates the discussion of how do you plan for those demands. Also, that information can then feed into water sales agreements in the future as we move forward. It also is useful information as it feeds into the capital improvements plan, which will be an additional document that's going to be developed, which looks at opportunities for shared infrastructure between the two organizations. The plan before you in your packets, it's still considered draft, even though it has been to the CRWSC board. The board did approve that document, but then gave the final approval to each Sunrise and CRW board. So I believe the Sunrise board, and talking to Wade, I think they're going to put on their agenda for the meeting later on this month, and we're bringing it to you this evening for your approval. That's it.
You, are you good? Bill?
Good.
Larry?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. If we could have a motion to consider the general manager's compensation.
Mr. Chair. President, I guess your name is.
There you go.
I move to modify the general manager's employment agreement to reflect the following. 1, modify section 1 to extend the term of the agreement to June 30th, 2021. Number 2, modify section 2.8 to provide an allowance in the gross amount of $550 per month to compensate for the use of his automobile. Number 3, modify section 2.30 to provide an allowance in the gross amount of $125 per month for a telecommunication allowance. 4, add a deferred compensation provision to section 3, which will say CRW shall contribute an amount equal to 2% of the general manager's gross salary to the general manager's deferred compensation account. This compensation will be made at least monthly in accordance with CRW's payroll practices. Number 5, rewrite section 3.3 to reflect the action taken by CRW board during the July 14, 2016 meeting regarding her contribution, and to provide vacation time to be accrued at, and I'll leave that blank, per month, which will be 3 weeks per year, and direct CRW General Counsel to create an amendment to the employment agreement to reflect the changes and authorize the CRW board president to sign on behalf of the CRW. The changes are to be effective for the payroll cycle beginning, and this says August 12th. My minute says July 1st, 2017.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can discuss.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment to the motion to add a deferred compensation, number 4, add a deferred compensation provision to section 3 CRW shall contribute an amount equal to 6% of the general manager's gross salary to the general manager's deferred compensation account. And I'd also like to have an amendment to provide vacation time to be accrued at 16.67 hours per month, which is 5 weeks per year. Do I have a second?
Second.
So we need to figure out where we are now. So,
Let me say the reasons that I made this motion with the limitations that I made is because sometime in September or October, we'll get a touring of our bond measure to find out if we can pay off the bonds without further raising the amount each citizen pays into the account. And at that time, we can reconsider the amounts that I changed.
how do we do this? We're struggling with the process to have the conversation.
That you would allow us now.
Yes, well, it's not him, it's with the way the rules are, we haven't discussed any of this prior to this meeting, and so I have to agree, I guess, if you have anything to say, keep us in line, and so.
Well, you currently have a motion on the table from Commissioner Andrew that needs to be discussed and voted upon before you get to the main motion. And
Oh, I
so
get it.
You'll want to have a discussion on that motion,
Okay.
limited to the motion, before going to the general discussion.
Okay, so let's have a roll call vote for the amended motion.
Do we want any discussion on the amended motion?
Yeah.
Does anybody want to say?
Did I get a second on the amended motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
All
your
right.
second. Discussion about the amended motion.
Well, I just want to defend my motion, which is the way that I know Robert's rules to do, is that 6% for a contribution for PERS seems very reasonable, and also the vacation time also seems reasonable to me. We have a very hardworking manager. He deserves a good vacation after all this hard work with the background and everything else. So I think that we're not asking for a big raise other than 2% that will match the union contract. So it all seems very reasonable to me.
Anybody else? Yeah, Larry?
I'll oppose the amendment because we just finished a contract. We just voted on the contract with our employees, and we gave them a 2% raise,
Well, it wasn't a
basically.
raise, though. It was
And here we're giving our general manager a 6% raise. And we're not giving to him directly, we're giving it to him in deferred compensation, but it's still money we have to pay out. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? So, call the roll for the amended motion.
Commissioner Andrew.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani.
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
No?
Commissioner Soa.
no,
Okay, motion passes 3-2.
Okay, so, any more discussion about the original motion?
no, the amendment changes the original motion.
It does.
We don't need to vote on the original motion.
You do have to go back.
Yeah,
and do-
council
yeah.
says we do.
That's the way Robert's rules is.
Yeah,
Well,
I
the
believe
amendment
we
and
do.
then the original amended motion,
As amended.
as
correct.
amended, right?
Yeah. Any more discussion? So let's call the vote for the amended motion. The original motion, yeah.
The amended, the original motion as amended. would be
Correct.
the-
Original motion is amended. Commissioner Anger.
Yes,
Commissioner Blanes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani.
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
No.
Commissioner Soa.
No.
Motion as amended passes 3-2.
We're good. So. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Larry? Consent agenda?
No.
Okay,
Motion passes 4-1.
yeah. Informational reports? Quarterly update, Carol.
Good evening, Commissioners. You'll have to excuse my sunglasses. I had my eyes dilated today, so I'm
Oh,
trying to keep
I
them.
was wondering, it looks like you're ready for the eclipse.
I'm just trying to be a hipster, I don't know.
Practicing for the eclipse.
So, this evening I would like to present to the board the quarterly update, and this would be the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2017. Now, these numbers are not 100% cast in stone. We're still doing some adjusting entries and some review and analysis of accounts, but we're really close, and I don't believe we're going to have any budgetary changes that will cause us any problem. So what I'm sharing with you is actually the biennial numbers. So we started with our original budget. We have had two supplemental budgets, one related to the backbone project and the bonding to add a couple of funds, and then we had another supplemental budget late last fall. We are going to make some adjustments as we reconcile accounts and prepare for the auditors to come in and audit the numbers. And then the board will have an opportunity to see the final numbers when the auditors do their presentation after they have completed their work. So here's the revenue status report. This is as by quarter. And you can see our water revenue higher in the July to September timeframe, drops a bit by the October to December. January through March is our lowest water sale time period, and then we start creeping up again towards the end. But we have water sales, our retail water sales are 107.7% of the budgeted number for the 2-year time period. And this doesn't include the wholesale water sales to Sunrise Water Authority, and that is at 102% of what we budgeted. So the revenues are coming in a bit higher than what we forecast, but we always forecast very conservatively because we don't want to rely on those funds should they not appear. So our other operating revenue is higher than budgeted as well. And this is primarily due to an increased number of private projects. So we have had more customers coming in with SDCs for new projects, and we charge engineering fees for reviewing their work and inspections. In our non-operating revenue, again, we're higher than budget, and the primary reason for this is the interest earnings from the local government investment pool have increased significantly. Last July, we were being paid 0.54%, and we're currently getting 1.45%. So the interest that we're earning on our funds in the local government investment pool have come in higher than the forecast. We did budget a higher number for this upcoming biennium, knowing what the current rate is and not anticipating it to go down. It may continue to go up, but we're kind of keeping it at that low level of where we currently sit. So now we're looking at the expense status, and I've created this chart in the same scale as the revenue status. So if we come back here to revenue, we are higher than where the expense numbers are. And the expense status kind of has been going up, but we've got a big capital outlay, kind of makes those big jumps quarter by quarter. And the materials and services, a little bit slow at the beginning of the year, and then they're kind of steady throughout the rest of the year. And the personnel services are pretty steady throughout. So in personnel services, we are under budget by about $54,000. We're at 99.4% of the biennial budget. And those numbers are pretty much done. We've already accrued our leave balances that we have to include in our financial statements, so that number should not change.
Question.
Yes.
So you always have to think of this in a biennial budget, not an annual budget.
Right.
And so I wonder why we have 99.4% of biennial budget when we just started.
Well, no, this is through June 30th. This
Okay.
is last year's.
Okay, good.
We're
Okay.
talking results from
Okay.
through last June.
Or June 5th?
Right.
Okay.
So next month, I'll be giving you a little information in the manager's report about where we
Okay.
are on the new.
On the current
biennium.
budget, yes.
Right. So the materials and services are about 84.5% of the budget, and capital outlay is at 83% of the budget. And I'll go into a few details here. In the general administration section, so we have several accounts, line item accounts that make up general administration. But we budgeted at the beginning of the prior biennium with the anticipation of continuing using Philadelphia insurance. And then we were able to purchase our insurance from SDIS, so that saved us quite a bit of money. We've also created an account called insurance deductible. And this account was created because knowing that we were working with a standard commercial insurance provider, we thought that there would be things that we would choose to pay for ourselves rather than file a claim. And that didn't really happen. So that's kind of a big chunk of money that was budgeted and not spent. But frankly, it was budgeted in hopes that we would not have to spend it. Then we go down to the office category. This is office supplies and some other minor stuff. And so our printing was pretty significantly under budget. We've done more printing in-house rather than sending it out. We have a group of accounts called other support costs, and these include things for employees like protective clothing and some different things like that. Employee relations and payroll processing fees were both a little over budget, but in all of the other categories we were under budget. And the payroll processing was about $923 over budget, $923 over budget over 2 years. So I'll check and make sure that I bumped it up 1,000 for this year. Professional and contracted services. Contract work is under budget, and part of that is due to a delay from what we anticipated in awarding the water system master plan contract. So that is just now getting started, but we had included that in the supplemental budget. And our legal is under budget by $181,000. Then we move into equipment. So this is equipment rental, equipment maintenance. Our maintenance agreements are over budget by about $40,000, so we've added some software that had some increased costs. Small tools and equipment is over by about $13,000, and that's, you can think of tools that the operations guys use, but it's also smaller pieces of furniture, upgrades that we need for stuff here at the admin office. But we had other items that were under budget, and one of them was equipment rental, and we did move some dollars that we had originally budgeted there. We moved to a different category, and it still all fit. And then our vehicle maintenance was quite a bit lower. At the beginning of this biennium, we acquired some new vehicles, and they're part of that enterprise fleet management program. And so we pay a fixed amount every month for actual maintenance, and we lost 4 of our older vehicles that were requiring a lot more maintenance. So that's why that one's kind of under. So all of the individual categories are kind of within normal ranges of the budget. I haven't seen anything that particularly concerns me. And then we moved to capital outlay, and this is the one where we spend money in kind of big chunks. So we buy a big item that's over $5,000, it lasts longer than a year. One of the things that we budgeted in the biennium was replacement of our financial software and our utility billing software. And in discussions with my staff after the budget was approved, they were like, everything's working really well. We get the numbers that we need, we're confident with the billing. So we decided to postpone that change. We are likely to include that, not in this biennium that you just approved, but in the next biennium. And that's simply because it is not going to be as well supported in the future because of its interaction with Microsoft Office products or Microsoft products. So that'll be coming up again in the budget, but that's the primary reason why the capital outlay was under. And we also, in the large meter replacement, we did not replace as many as we budgeted. This is we kind of budget the same amount every year. And the one year that we were trying to tighten up the budget and we looked at historical and we said, okay, we're going to cut it back. That year we replaced a lot, and these meters are revenue, right? So if they're not working right, it could impact our revenue. So this year we budgeted our standard amount and just did not spend it all. In the next biennium, we have the standard amount budgeted as well. So that as we notice meters slowing down or not working properly, we do have funding available to replace them. So that's kind of the quarter in a snapshot. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. From a budgetary perspective, we have not exceeded budget in any category. This primarily focused on the general fund, but the other funds are in good shape as well.
Any questions?
No? Excellent job as usual, Carol.
Seven?
Ready?
Yep.
All right, good evening, Commissioners.
Did you want to, I think we just hung up on.
Oh, no, I
No,
know.
that was
Oh, good.
computer, I don't know.
We hung up on it a long time ago.
Good.
Good.
Got
So-
something here.
Real quick, in your handouts there, as we provide every month, is you have your monthly updates. I just want to, again, draw attention to that. Included are just any changes as it relates to contracts, some additional information, financial information, similar to what Carol's provided, except it compares information year to year, to give you kind of what some of the trends are. Also shows you a variety of different activities as it relates to our billing, as it relates to new services, which July was a good month, and cross-connection activities, what we do as it relates to activities in the field, and where we're at with different projects. So it's a great summary to give you some information on that, so I always like to highlight that. As far as continuing on in the management report, I do want to note that we did receive the recent wholesale calculation memo from South Fork Water Board. This is one of those things that they're required to do once every 3 years to look at recalculating our rates. They used HDR Engineering in order to complete that study, which worked on it 3 years ago, a firm that does this type of work. CRW currently pays 88.7 cents per CCF. The memo and what they're planning on implementing September 1st will be an increase of 8.2 cents per CCF. So we'll be paying a rate of 96.9 cents per CCF. Again, they'll be implementing that in September 1st. Just to give you comparisons, the two owners of the South Fork facility, West Lynn and Oregon City, are paying 88.5 and 90.1 cents. But I think the thing to note is our rates are 3-year rate, where their rates are adjusted every year. So this is the first of their 3 years as it relates there. Variety of information from the last Clackamas River Water Providers meeting. You also have some additional information as item B1. They have the monthly newsletter that includes a variety of updates and some of the work that's taking place in the basin. One thing I will note that's not included in the information is that kind of a save the date item that we just learned about is October 7th. They'll have their annual watershed tour. This year, I believe it's going to be the upper watershed. And so we'll provide some more details next month, and we'll include that on the next update of the calendar itself.
October 7th, what day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday,
It's a Saturday, and is that usually an all-day thing?
pretty much, yeah. Or, yeah, I mean, you'll get done 3 in the afternoon, time on a day. So normally involves lunch, usually a pretty good tour. It has a whole array, a variety of folks that attend as far as just general public, other elected officials, staff that are available. So it's a good mix. So I enjoyed the tour last year of the lower watershed and some of the different things taking place around this area. One thing I will note in the Clackamas River Water Providers update is we do have an intern that's working for us and for CRWP that's working on the algae monitoring plan and doing some additional work and analysis with Suzanne DiLorenzo of our staff. Bren is a student at Clackamas Community College, and so has been doing some work again on that and helping us out to kind of play with our newer, I guess it's not new anymore, but our analytical tools and trying to detect cyanotoxins in the water. So we'll build upon that work. One of the other dates that I wanted to make you aware of is September 10th, so coming up fairly soon, I guess in a month or so. The Clackamas River Basin Council will hold its annual river cleanup event. So there's 4 parks that they use to collect trash and kind of organize volunteers, and so Riverside Park will be one of those. It's always been a great event, considerable amount of trash that gets collected and disposed of, and so we appreciate their work and all the volunteers that put that time and effort into it. I'm going to jump down to the backbone update. One thing I just want the board to be aware of is a change order as it relates to Redmond Reservoir and the design process. One of the things that we've ran into in the design process is the county land use requirements as it relates to fire break and safety zones. And so that's required us to kind of look at moving the reservoir slightly on our own property. The good news is we can do that. The bad news is it's going to take a little bit of redesign work. The total change associated with this is about 6%, 6.6% of the contract, so it's within my general manager's approval limits. However, I wanted to make sure that the board was.
So what does 6.6 mean? That doesn't tell me.
Oh, it's, sorry,
Yeah, that's right.
$27,850.
So it's a plus, not a minus.
It's a plus.
Yeah,
You're gonna move something.
It's always a
It's
plus.
always an add.
Yeah.
Always an
Like
add
that
to move
steel
things.
tank full of water is gonna never have any problem with
Yeah,
fire, right?
I know, that's my frustration, so. And Adams too. And just real quick to kind of move along and looking ahead, just want to make sure the board's aware, as you have on your calendar, that August 28th we'll have a board work session. We'll be talking about goals and kind of use this as a brainstorming meeting, so it's going to be very fluid. You're not going to see a whole lot of advanced materials or anything, so come with ideas. I'm going to have all of the management staff attend that meeting as well to provide resource and input and to the board. Also, just a reminder, in September 4th, since we won't be meeting as an official or regular meeting before then, Labor Day will be closed. I'll also be out of the office starting August 14th through the 22nd on vacation. So Carol Bright will be serving in my capacity. So if there's any questions or anything that's needed, get ahold of Carol. So, a couple other items that aren't included in the report that I did also want to make you aware of, stuff that's happened this last week since the report came out. Is that staff continues to work with the developer on the proposed Abernathy Landing development in that Holcomb Barlow Crest area and the related Bradley Road Waterline project. The good news is the Abernathy Landing design has been approved by both Oregon City and CRW, and so construction is scheduled to begin later this month. So progress is being made there. This is about roughly around 95 new homes that will be serving in that area. This is also an important project because it involves some improvements to a water line in Bradley Road that we're working on developing an agreement with the developer to install that main alignment for us.
So, question, so, I want to get us into another jam. Are we gonna manage that water line improvement on Bradley Road, or is that developer gonna do that?
So this will be Bob and or Joe, but yeah, the plan would be, I mean, the
We
developer.
want to do that project.
Well, the developer, we will inspect. We're inspecting, but it's the developer that's doing the work and then turning that asset over to us.
So how do we make sure that they keep that road passable and it's not a giant disaster?
I don't know what we have in the plans.
That road is just, you can't believe how politically sensitive that road is.
I'm unaware of the politics of the road. I know that the site distance is horrible.
Yeah.
And it's very
A
narrow.
number of site distances are bad in that stretch.
We have met with the county and talked to about that in the presence of the contractor, or the developer, I should say, and his consultant. They are aware of the situation in the road with regard to the site distance and the need for superior traffic control. But it's really a permit. We can do what we can do, but we're not issuing the permit for the road closure or temporary closure. The
So
road won't be completely
They're
closed.
talking about a closure?
Well, lane closure.
Okay. Because there's no workaround for emergency services.
Right.
There is no workaround.
The county brought up Leland Road as an example of what they would expect with regard to traffic control, flaggers, short-term traffic, lane closures. We discussed with them about advance warning, variable message signs ahead of the project inspection. So we'll be monitoring the schedule.
Okay.
I think Potter was kind of, this is a big deal. They're gonna see it as a water line. I know where the calls are gonna come, they're not going to the county.
This was not in your original written report,
Correct.
Ms. Brett. This
Yeah,
is
this is-
additional.
Yeah,
This is
Okay.
information.
This is new.
That
Okay.
happened this last week.
I'm glad we're getting the water line in. I just want to make sure that we are, as a water district, because it is a water line project and we'll be the owner of the pipe, that we do what we can to make sure that those things are taken care of.
So you'll see more on that as in the future. So a different topic is to make you aware of is that staff is also working on repairing a 30-foot section of a 1964 era 18-inch concrete cylinder pipe that's on the southeast 106 between Highway 212 and Jennifer Street. This is in that kind of Fred Meyer distribution area. It's sustained several cracks in a short span, and so we'll be doing some repairs and actually replacement of a portion of that line. Currently, the repair is being designed and will be completed by one of our on-call construction contractors within the next several weeks. We'll also include a video assessment of the line to see if we have any other issues with the contiguous section of the pipe and kind of look at its condition since we have that open, do that assessment. We also had contacted the pipe manufacturer and they're planning to look at the failed section of the pipe later this month and kind of help advise us or provide some insight on maybe some of the cause for the
Is
crack.
that north or south of the tracks?
It would be north.
On the north side?
And then, did you hit up the clothing stuff?
No,
Okay.
I wanted those to be explained before.
All right. So, and then Karen, I had heard a comment from the board members about how they didn't have CRW logo apparel. And so
Oh.
we'll hand out some options for you to look at. So if you could coordinate with Karen or Kelly on that, we'll take care of that. So that actually concludes my report this evening.
So while Tom's here, so the calendar thing, where are we with getting trained on learning how to do the calendars and vacations and stuff for the board?
You can drop by my office anytime.
Now, I want everybody, we need to do it when everybody's here. so
Oh,
everybody
okay, I'll
knows.
schedule that.
It's the
I'll have-
training thing.
I'll
it's
have
gonna
Karen
work.
schedule that.
Yeah, we got, so sooner than later, if we can,
That I would suggest a work session,
I would too.
but Commissioner Blanes is going to be gone for the next one, so
So
that puts
let's do the one,
September.
yeah,
September work session sounds good.
yeah.
Will we have time? The other-
Yeah, the September work session, you have the board assessments practice
That's right.
with SDAO,
Right.
and that will take the full 2 hours, so if you don't mind going a little over.
Well, then maybe, is there a daytime where you could all come in the morning, or maybe later in the afternoon, and then you could work with, during one of those times, it's separate from
Or we can,
board or work session?
or we can start early on September, the regular meeting, just have.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be
Sure.
a meeting item, they
Sure.
can just,
Yeah.
we can
Right.
just.
Or can we just do it after the next board meeting?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good,
that
thanks.
sounds better.
Otherwise, this is just not working. And we're going into the holidays, when people are gonna be gone, whenever, and then we schedule flush.
Good idea. What's left, we're almost done.
Yeah, that's how that is. Okay, any commissioner input, anybody? Very good. Meeting is adjourned.